For the next 4 minutes, we will examine the life of a nationally recognized entrepreneur, philanthropist, businessman, investor, but above all, an industrial American hero. Born in 1839 in Richford, New York, John D. Rockefeller spent the majority of his childhood idolizing a life of wealth and success.
He first worked as a bookkeeper for a local store in Cleveland, where he first recognized his true potential in the business world. In his adolescence, he came across a saying, "Gain all you can, save all you can, and give all you can." Then he wrote down 2 life goals: accumulate $100,000 and live a healthy life of 100 years.
One day, John was offered a management position in a partnership started by his brother William in Cleveland. John accepted the position. The partnership was renamed to Rockefeller, Andrews, and Flagler. This partnership would become the building blocks for one of the most successful businesses in the history of the world. The partnership grew and expanded by the day, and soon enough they became one of the biggest oil and kerosene shippers in the nation.
Rockefeller worked day and night, absorbing 22 other shipping companies within just a few years of establishment. The partnership that went by Standard Oil Company now struck deals with railroad companies in the Midwest, allowing them to undercut the prices of their competition, forcing oil shipper after oil shipper to declare bankruptcy. Rockefeller had accumulated his first $1 million by the year 1890, equivalent to nearly $26 million today. The same year, Standard Oil accounted for about 90% of the United States oil market.
As a result of this dominance, both he and Standard Oil were both constantly under duress by local newspapers and critics for its monopolistic efforts. But Rockefeller persisted, arguing what he was doing was moral and ethical, and that if anyone worked hard enough, they too could accomplish similar things. Standard Oil peaked in the early 1890s. From here on, Rockefeller loosened his reins on his business and his monopolistic efforts. They halted their absorption of businesses and spent the next decade being eroded by the combination of competing oil companies and antitrust laws.
Here are 2 cartoons created at the time to demonstrate the monopolistic efforts of John Rockefeller and his business.
The Sherman Antitrust Act was officially passed in 1890. The act aimed to crack down on monopolistic business practices across the nation, including Standard Oil. The government had much trouble enforcing the act in its early years, as it was no easy task to take down multi-million-dollar monopolies with private attorneys. Provisions to the act were made, and the loopholes were sewn shut. Eventually, Standard Oil was cornered.
After months of court hearings, Standard Oil was defeated. The company was to split into 34 independently operating oil companies throughout the nation.
This 34-way split resulted in the creation of some businesses that still thrive today, such as Chevron, ExxonMobil, and ConocoPhillips. Rockefeller's 25% stake in Standard Oil was divided among 34 companies, so in the end, the act successfully took down the Standard Oil Company monopoly. But the 34-way split resulted in an unfathomable profit for Rockefeller, as by 1916 he had now accumulated a personal net worth of $1 billion, which is equal to a whopping $26 billion today.
This chart shows all of the 34 companies that Standard Oil became.
John led a very different life after Standard Oil. The hustling and the business was replaced by summer homes and leisure activities. For one thing, John took up golf with his closest friends and family. Also, he owned a hotel in Florida called the Ormond. He loved the nearby beaches and had a very soft spot for the area. He spent the majority of his winters here. During the summers, John took the family up north to his estate in Lakewood, New Jersey, just about an hour drive west from Lambertville.
Here is the Ormond Hotel, and here is the Lakewood residence in New Jersey.
Rockefeller married his wife Laura in 1864. Together they had 5 children, 4 girls and 1 boy. After his wife Laura passed in 1915, John never remarried. John D. Rockefeller took his final breath in May of 1937, just 3 years short of his lifelong goal of reaching 100 years of age.
This is John Rockefeller's wife, Laura.
Throughout his involvement in the oil industry, after his retirement from business, and even after he passed, the Rockefeller name received tons of criticism for their monopolization of the oil industry. While this is true, the Rockefeller family contributed significant portions of their amassed fortune to organizations they supported and believed in wholeheartedly.
The Rockefeller Foundation, established in 1913, donated $500 million to the education system and scientific research in the United States. The foundation also provided financial relief to the government during World War I when the funding was subpar. Even more so, the Rockefellers funded the construction of dozens of churches across the nation, including both Christian churches and African American exclusive churches.
In addition to all of this, Rockefeller funded the University of Chicago and donated millions of dollars to the construction of other Ivy League schools, such as Yale, Brown, Harvard, and Columbia.
These are just some of the schools that the Rockefeller family donated to. We have the University of Chicago, Yale, and Columbia University.
But perhaps the most heartwarming of them all, John D. Rockefeller himself would roam towns all throughout the East Coast and personally give dimes from his own pocket to any man or woman that looked like they were financially incapable of supporting their families. A true, kind-hearted, humane gesture.
So let us remember John D. Rockefeller, not only for founding the entrepreneurial principles of American industry, and not only for becoming the United States' first billionaire, but for his selfless, charitable donations in his later years, and his utmost devotion to putting his family first, always.